અત્યારે હાલ છે તે ચાલી રહી છે.
How exciting these last few days have been. You have all seen India celebrating the historic feat of Chandrayaan 3 landing on the south pole of the moon, and we have seen the rover coming out of the lander and taking almost 18 meters of walk on the south pole of the moon. This indeed is a very historic moment for all of us to be proud of. Also, please remember that our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, reiterated that science and technology will be integral to the development of our country, and this is what will make us a fully developed nation by in next coming years. We are committed to showcase the same spirit what our Honorable Prime Minister said toward fostering the sustained development of science advisors globally, engagement of science advisors. So in that context, this G20 Chief Science Advisor Roundtable was a very significant step which was added in G20, India's G20 presidency. And you all know that chief science advisors are uniquely positioned in the overall governance framework to drive policy towards evidence driven science advice. So this is a very new mechanism which we have nucleated, and we are very hopeful and convinced that the next presidency of Brazil will take it forward and then pass on the baton to South Africa. So in this roundtable, I'll briefly mention the three very important themes which were discussed. One is leveraging opportunities in One Health for better disease prevention, control, and pandemic preparedness. And you know what COVID-19 has taught us, how do we really look at it, and you all know that you cannot isolate human health, animal health, our wildlife and environment separately. You have to bring them together, and what are the frameworks needed globally was discussed. Second, synergizing global efforts to expand access to scholarly scientific knowledge. How do you access this knowledge and how we can democratize this is the second point. Third one was ensuring equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility in science and technology ecosystem. We have to take all the players along with us and make sure that traditional knowledge has a place in this ecosystem, multilingual engagement, and so on. Very important themes. And the fourth one was to create an inclusive and continuous action-oriented this advisory mechanism through this G20 Chief Science Advisor Roundtable. And I am happy to say that there was an overwhelming agreement on all the four themes, and all the countries have unanimously adopted this summary. It is called outcome statement, outcome document, and chair summary. So this is the name of the document which will be released in subsequent time. So happy that the next presidency of Brazil, we are very hopeful that they will take it up and move forward. So with this, let me close my opening remarks, and if I will invite Dr. Mani and Mr. Naman to add to this before we take up the questions from you. Dr. Mani.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone here. Professor Sood, the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, who was chairing this Chief Science Advisors Roundtable under India's G20 presidency, has actually briefed you about all the topics that we discussed during this roundtable. And they were, of course, as he has already elaborated, that the crucial role the global chief science advisors and their equivalents actually play in bridging the gap between science and policy. And as you all will also acknowledge that the G20 nations together, they are the largest scientific contributors and responsible for generating around 85% of the world's scientific knowledge. So this makes the G20 Chief Science Advisors Roundtable a befitting platform for discussing potential areas of collaboration for bringing solutions to global challenges that the world is facing today. There have been, of course, attempts by various governments at various multilateral organizations as well as other platforms to, create a sustainable global science advice mechanism in an inclusive and action-oriented manner. But the G20 CSR has been introduced as a government-to-government platform, and we really have had a very successful set of meetings. And we had several meetings, including several intersessional meetings, several multilateral and bilateral engagements with various G20 member countries and the invitee countries to actually come to a consensus. And all the 4 topics, as Professor Sood has also elucidated, these 4 topics were well discussed and well accepted by everybody. And of course, Sir PS has also pointed out that we have successfully had arrived at a consensus and taking out an outcome document and chair summary, which will be released very soon. And we have also passed on the baton to Brazil to take it forward. With this, of course, I hand it over back to the state. Yeah.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir, for your insightful remarks. Now, I would like to invite Naman Upadhyay, sir, for his remarks, please.
Thank you. So, as Honorable Sir has already in detail elaborated some of the priorities and the key areas which were deliberated and discussed during the meeting, and it is very heartening to see, and it's a big achievement for India's G20 presidency that a consensus has emerged on all the 4 important priority areas. And apart from that, I must say that it's an achievement for India because India has been a voice of Global South for long, and this is first time in India's G20 presidency that G20 CSAR has come out as a platform to discuss the science advice and come up with a kind of an institutional mechanism to discuss and collaborate and cooperate with G20 member countries, invited countries and other international organizations to deliberate on these important topics. And I must congratulate sir for his able leadership and the way he chaired all the meetings. There were 2 meetings for G20 CSAR. The first one was at Ramnagar, Uttarakhand, and another one was here. And today we have successfully completed both the meetings, and we are very much hopeful that next presidency, which is Brazil, they will take this initiative forward, which has been first time introduced during our presidency. And then from Brazil, the another member of Troika, which is South Africa, will take it further forward. So this is our aim and objective, that this kind of G20 CSAR mechanism gets institutionalized and it can be taken forward. And really I must say it's an achievement because it's a good opportunity because first time in the Troika, like we have the 3 developing countries, India, Brazil and then South Africa, which will provide a voice for the Global South and put forward our crucial agenda, which we look forward for upcoming presidencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Naman Upadhyay, sir. Now we would like to open the floor for the questions from the media. Media person can raise their hands. The names and organization name, please. Yes, please. This side. Yes.
Hi, hi. I'm Sohini from Indian Express. So I'm seeing the outcome document, and it mentions about immediate and universal access to appropriately publicly funded scholarly scientific knowledge. So in this regard, I want to check with you. Has there been a discussion on the copyright laws? Because something that we saw was with Sai Hub and the Delhi High Court matter, where ultimately Delhi High Court kind of closed it. So over there, it becomes crucial that copyright also figures in the discussion. So was that part of the agenda?
A very good question, actually. You know, Science Hub has been there for a while, and many people have benefited, so called benefited, and so on. So, those issues were not discussed. Our goal is without Science Hub, can we achieve the same thing? Access to science. Science Hub is a platform which is, someone will call it illegal, which allows students to access a publication without going through the library system, right? That's what we know. So we don't want to encourage that. That's not the intent of democratically elected governments. That's not the intent. But we are trying to find ways that it becomes available at an affordable cost to the countries without going through this mechanism. That's the but very good point which you raised.
And
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. You can continue, please. Yes.
I just want to take one more question.
Yeah.
It also mentions about acknowledging the contribution of traditional and indigenous knowledge systems and recommend these systems to be taken into account with contemporary science. So in this, was there any specific model that was discussed, for example, NEP or anything of the sort?
No, again, the specific things are not discussed, like what you are saying. But what is important is to bring the traditional knowledge in the framework of with other science, of course, based on evidence driven evaluations and so on. So a specific model is not discussed, but idea is not to look at the traditional knowledge with a biased view. That's the intent, and you would be happy to know that many countries, not only India, but many countries have strong support for that, and because they have their own tribal communities and so on, and it's a rich source of knowledge which has to be taken in our fold. So that's absolutely important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question.
Were there any discussions on artificial intelligence? And second question, what were the areas of disagreement since you are also issuing a chair summary apart from
Okay, artificial intelligence as such is not indicated, but it is there if you look at the One Health. In One Health, when you are looking at disease modeling cannot be done without AI. So it is implicit that wherever you have data-driven science, AI will be an integral part. So it is there in that framework. Now, chair summary has come because of geopolitical reasoning and a statement which is there in many G20 this thing. But otherwise, there was a complete agreement on the other parts. That's the reason.
Sir, when is the Nandita Dagar DD News and DD India? Sir, when is the outcome document likely to be released? If this has been agreed upon, when will it be released?
Outcome document is on the website in g20.org. Yes.
And what are the salient features, if I could ask you, of this outcome document?
See, the outcome document, as I mentioned, deals with 4 topics. One Health, open access to scholarly knowledge, then diversity, equity, inclusion and accessibility of S&T, and the 4th one is institutionalizing this mechanism which is G to G for subsequent engagements. So all those fours have very specific recommendation. So it is not a document just in words. All the countries have come together to suggest ways. For example, I'll just give you one example so that it makes it more concrete. One Health concept is accepted by all countries because all countries have suffered immensely due to COVID. So now there is no strict boundary between human health, animal health, and environment. There is no strict boundary because diseases are crisscrossing, right? So the idea is how to deal with it. How do you do surveillance, environmental surveillance? How do you do preparedness for vaccines? How do you do preparedness for other features of pandemic handling? So all these things have been discussed.
Sir, one more question subsequent to your, because this pandemic which recently struck began in this lab in Wuhan in China. How have the countries devised mechanisms to actually not allow these kind of accidental or deliberate leaking of these biological engineered organisms from scientific labs? Has that also been discussed, and did the Chinese representative have anything to say on this?
Let me first give a simple answer, then I'll ask my colleagues to answer. These specific things have not been discussed, and this is not the forum for that. So the idea is how to avoid the future pandemics. That is the whole concept. We are not post-morteming what has happened so far. So that is not the intent of this forum. You want to add anything?
Sir, you have already.
That's right. Okay. Thank you.
Next question, please. Yes, ma'am.
Fourth priority is creating an inclusive, continuous and action-oriented global science advice.
I'll ask
So,
Dr. Mani.
can you please elaborate on that? And the
Yes.
second question is, how this meeting will benefit India?
Very good questions. Dr. Mani.
So, as has
Sunai
been,
nahi de raha.
Ma'am, keep
Hello.
it close, please.
Keep it close. Close to it.
hello,
ये ले लीजिए. नहीं, ये ले
nahi hai. Hello. Yeah, as had been elaborated right in the beginning, this is the Chief Science Advisors Roundtable is going to take up contemporary issues which are global challenges that we have and discuss it, because the Chief Science Advisors are embedded in the highest level of governance and they actually advise the highest level. So the main aim of this platform that we have created, the round table that we have created, is actually to make a framework. So under this framework, in this our presidency, we have chosen 3 topics which Sir has just elaborated. That is the One Health, the open access, and the third one is diversity. And the fourth agenda point is basically for that if this thing is taken forward to the next presidency, creating. So we have initiated it in our presidency and it has to be taken forward. So that is what this agenda point is trying to tell. The fourth one, the creating an action. And whatever we decide here, whatever we discuss here under One Health or scholarly knowledge or also in the diversity, how it can be converted into action. And that is why the word comes action oriented. So basically what I want to say is we have not gone into details of how this has to be implemented. We have tried to build a framework how this needs to be, how all the chief science advisors come on a single table and decide how these things have to be taken, and we make an informed decision making based on all the evidence that we gather together collectively as G20 and nations. That is.
तो G20 चीफ